Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 10. Yes, you heard that right. Episode 10 of the Racetech V8ESC Backfire podcast. In the booth with me tonight, we have the usual suspects and two-time champions, I can say now. Mr. Tony Kloosterman, good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
And also, we're going to call him. We've just found out some information that we'll let you into later on. Jesus Brand.
Evening.
And in the background, keeping quiet as usual, doing the wheels of steel and all the magic that goes on, is Mr. Sam Boozin. So, guys, Silverstone, Super Sprints, final meeting of the season. Johnny, you went into it with a fairly healthy lead, and you did what you needed to do. I think you actually did better than you needed to do with a couple of wins. So we'll start with the newly crowned double champion, Johnny Brandon. How did it go for you?
Yeah, it went okay, I think. It was, yeah, had some good pace, put some practice in for once, a bit more than I had done before, and it seemed to pay off. I was assisted by Tony's bad luck. He took himself out of the equation with his internet problems. But yeah, quite surprised. Just cruised all night really and had good pace, and it all just had a night where the trouble avoided me, and yeah, couldn't have gone any better really.
Yeah, always good to have one of those nights. And in contrast, Tony, you had the night from hell.
That'd be putting it mildly. Actually, the week from hell, because I had a computer issue as well. I had to replace my CPU and motherboard on Friday evening. Chris Jackson kindly came over to help me out, and then had to get everything up and running Saturday morning, only to have the internet provider go down for about 20 minutes just as race one was about to start. So that put paid to every effort last week.
Yeah, I'm sitting on the grid talking to Pete and Bill. We were sort of giggling at how you always leave it till the last minute before you grid. And then when I watched the broadcast back, the guys on there were saying how you leave it till the last minute. And they were surprised that you didn't manage to get on the grid. But, as we found out, the internet went down in your area. So I don't know whether you need to move or pay the bills more regularly. From my side, again, zero practice. Got into the server probably about 20 minutes before the end. Had 3 different setups to try quickly, and yeah, I wasn't quick. I qualified near the back, but as we always say to people, and as I always say when we have new people join, it's when you're at my pace, it's not about speed; it's about finishing races. And I should have had 3 top tens. Silly mistake by myself in the second race, but race 1 and race 3 went really well. So anybody that's thinking about joining the league with the new cars coming and things like that, like I say, don't worry about your speed, worry about finishing the races, and that'll get you there in the end. Just back to you again, Johnny. George has pushed you all the way this year, this season, shall we say? Um, who do you see as your main rival or main rivals for season 8 when we kick off again in January?
I think it's the beauty of the league, really. There's so many. I think it's the usual suspects: Tony, George, Victor, Chris, Nickel if he comes back. I think I heard somewhere that Doka might be coming back. Then add into that the new cars, new tyre model, new entrance to the league, more than likely because of those new cars. I mean, I could be racing for a top 10. You never know who's going to show up, what's going to happen with the new physics. Hence, I was so pleased to win that one because I think it's going to be much more up in the air, should we say, for next season.
Yeah, and I obviously if Nicole Foggy comes back, I think possibly you're going to have your hands full racing your teammates, let alone anybody else, because the form Rich Warmingham has shown this season. I think you need to keep one eye over each shoulder, looking at your teammates.
100%. I mean, we're really lucky at XVR that everybody's helping everybody to move on. There's no question Nickel's the fastest guy in XVR, and that spurs me on, gives me something to chase. Rich and Steve are chasing me, Lane's chasing Rich and Steve, and everyone is showing massive improvement this season in every car, not just the V8. It's in the TCR. Everyone is rapid, and rapidly improving. So yeah, it's great news for us. Long may it continue, and yeah, I'm sure I'll be looking over both shoulders. And I got to be honest, Rich Warmingham is gutted. The new cars are coming out just as he's got the hang of it, of the old one. He's he's not over the moon. He's pretty frustrated that just as he's got the hang of it, and he feels like he's up with the front runners, they've binned the car and a new one's coming.
I'm sure he'll adjust quickly.
Yeah, perhaps we'll do a retro round where we run the old cars just for Rich. And Tony, obviously season 1, season 2 champion, and then for the next 5 seasons, bloody hell, we've been going that long now. You're always there or thereabouts, but not quite being able to push it over the line. Chris Jackson, in my eyes, has showed a hell of a lot of improvement. Not in pace, because I think he's always had the pace, but in patience, racecraft. Sometimes Chris could be. This might be a little bit harsh, but a bit of a liability. But he seems to have curbed all that now. So he's pushing you hard. We all know that Victor's got it in him if he does a full season and stops driving every car that's available on the service. And then, the NQR Ford team, as they were this year, I know those guys put in a hell of a lot of work in the background with setup testing and things like that. So do you think that you can climb to the top of the tree again next season?
I think that's a tall order. It's a tall order for anyone. Actually, with the amount of competition that we see coming up and that we've had this year, it'll be a crapshoot for next year's championship for sure. And I want to echo what Johnny was saying. His teammates have been pushing each other and getting better and better. And we see the same thing within our team, and I think that's a good indicator for others that are racing. Hook up with one or two guys and form a team and work together, and it really does pay off because they do push each other, and we see that marked improvement throughout the year.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. NQR have been around since the start, and then I believe it was Johnny that formed XVR after some shenanigans in the background. And the guys that drive for them, as you quite rightly say, they push each other. You've got the Fitzstye Motorsports team as well, which has mainly been George, but now they've got Harold on board and possibly might get Doka back again next season. So that they're going to be another strong team just out of what we've had this year. And then if we get some more drivers in, there could be some real good fights. Not just in the individual championships, but in the team championships as well. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. So, guys, as we usually do, driving standards from Silverstone. I must admit, I was at the front, in the middle, and at the back at some point in the three races, and I didn't see anything naughty going on. Tony, from well, I was going to say, from your point of view, you didn't really have one in race one, but from where you did race and the positions you was in, everything looked good to you.
Yeah, other than the start of race 3, I don't know what happened in turn 1. All I know is that the road was completely blocked, and I got messed up in that. I think it was race 1.
Obviously,
or race 2 or race 3. I can't remember which one it was, but anyways, yeah. Other than that, I watched the broadcast. Broadcast looked pretty good.
Yeah, and Johnny, obviously you led from the front in race 1. You had to fight your way through in races 2 and races 3. Did you see anything, off?
No, not really. There was some borderline stuff with George and Victor, got to be honest, or it looked like it from where I was sitting, right behind them. But they both made it. No one seems to be doing any shouting, so yeah, keep out of that one. And then the rest of it, I mean, if I'm being honest, on the broadcast, it did look a little bit messy, just at the reverse grid races, but it sort of harks back to the conversation we had in the last podcast about, I think, people getting nervous and maybe overdriving a little bit in the reverse grids when they find themselves at the front. Whether that's people just going into turn 1 thinking they've got to go a bit quicker because there's faster guys behind them, I don't know what causes it. But there definitely seem to be some issues. Lap 1, turn 2. Bearing in mind, turn 1 was not really a turn when you're starting. From a standing start, it's just flat out pretty much. So turn 2, lap 1 looked to be a bit messy in the reverse grids. But I don't think it was anything naughty. I think it was just, like I say, what we discussed before of the back markers being on pole, maybe panicking a little bit. I don't know. I have to ask them, I suppose. But that's all I saw.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is something that I used to do. You pound laps in practice, and you get your braking points down, and you know exactly where you're hitting the brakes and how hard you're hitting them, and then you seem to forget all that when you get on the grid, and you don't realise you've got cold tyres, cold brakes, and you're looking for that brake marker that you've picked for however many laps you've done in practice, and then all the cars in front of you are braking early, and you're like, oh shit, what's going on here? I've had some real lucky escape, shall we say.
These are the differences, people think it's secret setups and the fast guys have got all these magical things they've got on the cars. It's not, it's just they don't overdrive it and make those sort of mistakes, that one. And You know, if you're starting at the front, you got all the time in the world. Just do your normal thing. Take your
Yeah.
time, and yeah, leave people space. I think people are moving across the track a little bit, and if there's a lot of cars around, the last thing you want to be doing is moving across the track. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Unless we can talk you into cancelling the reverse grids, but that's highly unlikely.
Yeah, move on. One thing, I don't think it was picked up in the broadcast, but just something I've gotta say, because I shit myself and giggled myself to death all in the same corner. I think it was race one. In the practice, Chris Jackson had sent me a couple of private messages. You could see I was struggling, and it was, follow me round, do this in this corner, do this in this corner. And the last corner, the sort of sharpish right that goes on forever, Chris told me to get my right side tyres on the curb and stick on that curb all the way round, which I thought I was doing until my spotter warned me that there was a car on the inside, and I'm in the rift, and I looked right, and Victor Tanaka was on the inside of me, and I thought I was on the curb. So I think he made an extra part of the track, but made it
I
work.
think George had the same issue.
I honestly, it was in a flash. It was like, what the hell is my spotter going on about? And I just looked, and Victor was there, and I thought, well, where he can't even be on the track because I'm on the curb. But yeah, that was brilliant. So I digress there. So there was no post-race bitching, which is always good. Just plenty of congratulations for Johnny winning the championship, Gary also winning the club championship, and NQR winning the team championship. I was going to go through the standings, but I'm not going to. I put plenty of posts up on Facebook and in the V8 forum, and the standings are all updated there for everybody to see, so you can see where you finished.
Who was at the top?
Somebody called Jesus. So yeah, I'm gonna skip to the driver of the meeting now. Bear in mind, this is driver of the meeting, not driver of the season. We have got a little driver of the season section in a little while. I'm going to ask you first, Johnny. Who was your driver of the meeting from Silverstone?
Ask Tony. Let me have a think for a minute.
Go on then,
Okay.
Tony. The youngsters haven't got much of a memory.
Jesus. I'd say based on overall performance, Harold Stadler was pretty solid. He had a third, a fourth, and a fourth, I think. So 3 top 5 finishes from Harold, and we've said it before. I think it was the improvement that Harold's made this year, and very impressive.
There you go, Johnny. Have you had time to think?
Yep. I'll give mine to an XVR guy, funnily enough. But not who you might expect. Kieran Roche. Was new. It was his first time in the car. Hadn't done any practice until about 20 minutes before the race started. So he wasn't even sure he was going to race when he joined the practice session. And I thought he did really well. He was leading race 2 or 3 for a little while. Didn't do anything catastrophic, and it was battling people like Bogotarev. And for somebody that doesn't drive the car, I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, he had a good result in race 2. I think he finished 5th or 6th.
Yeah. And I think he was back 9th or something in race 3, wasn't he? Or 10.
Yeah.
Anyway, for me, it was quite impressive, Kieran. I think everyone else, it was a little bit hard to say because there was a little bit of shuffling and incidents going on that took Tony out, and that elevated Harold, should we say, and crippled Richard Warmingham. A lot of people were doing quite well, but various things happened. So you can't really base it on results, I don't think. I think it was quite a hard one. So yeah, I'd say Kieran.
That's a good call. I've probably got two, if I'm honest. Rich Warmingham, I always end up voting for Rich because I just think he's come on leaps and bounds. But he had a second place, which was a fantastic result for Rich. And my other one, same sort of basis of Tony, is going to be George. 3 top fives, including a win. There was a lot on the line for George. I know how competitive he is, and obviously how much he wanted to beat Johnny, and how well he's chased him all season. So I think George, and like I say, just Rich for his second place for me.
Johnny, can you maybe get an autograph picture of Richard for Clyde for Christmas? He's becoming quite the fanboy.
No problem. $50.
Can it be naked?
That's $25.
That's fair enough. So yeah, like I say, guys, that was Silverstone. I thought the new track looked good, even though we only used part of it. And I don't know. I don't know whether it's because it's a fairly simple track. I quite enjoyed the race. I had some good racing with Sam. Some good racing sort of up and down the grid. A couple of the NQR guys were struggling to get past me for a little while. I had a good battle with Harold. I think we was side by side for at least half a lap, maybe a little bit more. So yeah, I thought that was really good and a good end to the season. Just a shame about the winner, but so normally we'd have our guest driver here, but I purposely haven't invited anybody as a guest driver because what I wanted to do was a bit of an end of season review with you guys. I'll start with Tony to give Johnny some time to think about it. Not from a personal perspective, Tony, but from a league perspective. How do you think things have gone this season? We've had a hardcore of 20 drivers that have raced in nearly every race. Championship probably wasn't as close as we'd have liked in the end. It would have been nice going into the last race, like the sprint series, with just a few points between first and second and maybe third. But on the whole, with the schedule and with everything that's gone on this season, was it a good season for you and for the league?
I think for a league, it was a good season. I think every league, every group of people that initially gets together goes through some various phases, and I call it the forming, storming, and norming phases. And we get that whenever we get new people into a league, so everybody's got to kind of feel everybody out. Some hard feelings early in the season because people get rubbed the wrong way, and then I think there's a relationship of respect that builds through the year. So I think that the league has done well. It's nice to see that we've had a solid entry each and every race. It'd be nice to see more, and certainly fingers are crossed with the new car coming out that we do see an influx of drivers, and hopefully we can welcome them and have them adapt to the league quickly, and we don't go through as much storming as we did earlier in this particular season.
And Johnny, so similar to you, how do you feel is the league getting better? Is it stagnated? Is it getting worse? obviously from a personal point of view, it couldn't have gone much better, apart from the team championship. But from a non-admin who races in the league, how do you think we're getting on?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think the pace of everybody is definitely getting better throughout the field from the last couple of seasons that I've been involved. It'd be nice to see people doing every round. I think people have had issues, hardware issues, i.e. Chris Jackson, so he wasn't able to make it to all the rounds. Victor is sort of in and out for whatever reason, I'm not sure. So it'd be nice for those people to be always around. Same with people like Taliantich, but he has other things that he commits to. Generally speaking, yeah, I think the numbers have stayed up in the 20s for the entire season, including the last round, which for a league really is pretty good. I mean, if you look at something like the World GT, that had 50 odd entries, and then 12 weeks later they're down to 23 or something, because people can't win. Half the top guys didn't left halfway through the season. It's really good for a league. It shows how good the league is for the people hanging around, and I think it will get massively more populated because of the new cars. Whether that's a good or bad thing remains to be seen. Hopefully it'll be possibly a bit of both, more a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would love one half of me would love to see 40 and 50 car grids. And then the other half of me, when I look at other series that has that kind of participation, you're just waiting for the next crash, the next shitstorm.
For me, it's not the numbers; it's the people. It's the attitude of the people, and that's what makes this league so great. Everybody in is pretty much on the same level mentally as to what they want from the league. I think you get the right people in, 40, 50 cars can be amazing. If it's the wrong people, it can be disastrous. So yeah, it's a state of mind and attitude, really. So
there'll be lots to talk about post race.
yeah, hopefully the league infects people with the right attitude. It's probably the best way to put it. So it could be a good thing.
I think
it'll have the hammer stick out.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think there's a hardcore of drivers, and people have got a lot of respect for each other, and I think we do get, I'll call them hotheads, join the league, but they either disappear when they don't get their own way and throw their toys out the pram, or they realise that I suppose it's an old-fashioned gentleman's league, and they tend to come round to the same way of thinking, and I think that's the beauty of league racing, as opposed to hopping on and racing with Mr. and Mrs. Random from anywhere on the planet. You do get to know the drivers, what you can get away with, what you can't get away with. If I bump so and so, I know he's going to get me back. I think because we've been going for 4 years now, and at least the last 2 to 3 years, we've had the same hardcore of drivers, but then improved on it year on year with more drivers coming in and getting into the same mindset. I think that's something that I don't think we've done anything in particular to make it that way, but the league has just walked itself in that direction, if that makes sense, guys.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of infectiously creates it.
And hopefully it carries on. So from the start of the season, so back in June, obviously I didn't have any high hopes of winning the championship. I'm sure you two had a sneaking suspicion that you'd be up there somewhere. Not really.
Only when Foggy dropped out for me.
I'm not really asking you for a driver of the season yet, but is there somebody, good or bad, that stuck out in this season for you, Tony?
I don't want to sound like a homeboy, but I'm going to say Chris. I think Chris has come along quite a ways through the year, and he finished fourth in the championship, even with I think missing a couple of events or having some hardware issues. So I think that he did really well. But there's probably a handful of guys that you could pick and choose, and you wouldn't be wrong on any of them.
And Johnny, you've had time to think. Anybody,
I
say
don't
good
need
or
to think
bad?
that one. Yeah, massive improvement for me. Gary Croft, Greg Carr, Rich Warmingham. They're the three that stand out for me hugely. I think massive differences. How Gary? I mean, Gary, he did win a race this year, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Belle, yeah.
Belle
I was
Isle,
going to say how they haven't
reverse
won. I
grid,
don't know. He's got proper serious pace. Serious pace. He cuts out the mistakes. He's there. He was before they changed the car anyway. But yeah, by far, those guys definitely upped it for me massively, hugely. And that's the most difficult gains to make. From that mid pack getting up to the fast guys. That's the hardest bit to achieve, and they did it pretty much from the start of the season. All three of those. So yeah, without those three for me all day long.
So I agree with both of your choices there. Chris Jackson, as I said before, Chris is, to me, he's cut out the aggressive driving, but still managed to retain the speed. Gary has just it's just blossomed this season. I think you're right. He sometimes makes mistakes, and I think sometimes he's Mr. Unlucky. There's if there's a crash happening, it's usually Gary gets tagged right at the end of it or something like that. And I was going to say Rich Warmingham, but I'm not going to because it's going to sound like I want his babies. But the other end of the grid, I would also like to throw in Andrew Hoffman and Mike Frost, two guys that have struggled from when they joined. But I think in Andrew's case, he's certainly got more consistent. He's not blisteringly quick or anything like that. But I know I'm not particularly quick, but he quite often out qualifies me now, which is not a difficult thing to do. But it must be good from his side to see that he is moving up. And I don't know what's happened to Mike in the last few rounds. I know he wasn't at Silverstone. I think he had something going on medically. But the couple of rounds before that, Mike seemed to show some pace that wasn't there before. So whether that is a setup thing with Mike, I don't know, or
He had
I
a
don't quite
coaching
know.
class with me, didn't he? That must be what it was.
Yeah, and obviously I know Mike did one. Mike Taliancic did one with Andrew Hoffman, so I think that helped him. And my final one, I'm also going to say Bill Switzer, because I know Bill was very, very, very frustrated with the car. Well, not so much the car, but with his driving. And just for the Silverstone round anyway, we'll wait and see whether it carries on to next season. We had a little chat at the start about not overdriving the corners and not throwing yourself off the track. And, maybe even if you're lapping a second a lap slower, but keeping it on the track, your overall race time is less. And I think Bill did really well at Silverstone. So, yeah, they would be my nominations. So, from all that, guys, I'm going to start with Tony. Over the whole season, who was your driver of the season?
My old age is going to bow out to Johnny for a second while I think to that.
And Johnny's old age has already kicked in. So I'll tell you what,
Jesus.
whilst you two are thinking about it, I'll start this week. I usually wait till last and then agree with one of you two. But my driver of the season is going to be Gary Croft, simply because he's shown an enormous turn of speed this season compared with. He did well last season, and the season before that he was slow. So I think his improvements are on a par with my darling Richard. He also got his first race win this season. Obviously won the club championship. And I know from our team chat, and this is probably where I'm a little bit biased, the phenomenal amount of work that Gary puts in the background, testing and tweaking and all sorts of things, just so that idiots like me can arrive and drive on the day. So, yeah, my driver of the season is going to be Gary Croft. So,
I'd
either
agree
of
with
you
that
two ready?
100%. Yeah, I was going to say Gary Croft anyway. Obviously, if I don't say Rich Warmingham as an XVR biased. But I was going to say Gary Croft because when you actually think that he was in the club championships, so that means that the previous season, having done more than 50% of the season, he's never finished in the top 5. To suddenly have the pace and win that title, and not only win that title, but run in top 6 all the time in the main series. That's a pretty big change. That's impressive, I think.
I can attest to the amount of work that Gary's been doing, and it's nice to see him his progress this past year, and not taking anything away from Rich, because I think Rich had a phenomenal year as well.
I think the jump from Gary is bigger. Rich had some top 5s. He's just found some pace, but I think the jump from Gary has been huge this year. Don't mean that in a bad way, Gary. You weren't that bad before, but I think that's the one that stood out for me.
So your vote is going to Gary as well, Tony?
I will do, yes. Make it unanimous.
Okay, so Gary, if you're listening to us live or listening to this on a replay, there in the post you will get a signed photograph of myself, Tony, and Johnny naked on the floor doing oops upside your head. So congratulations, mate. That's a coveted award. Right, guys, so on to iRacing news. Obviously, the big news for us was on the last podcast with the new cars being announced as being in this build. Again, there's been lots of discussions on forums and Facebook pages about how ugly the Mustang is and this, that, and the other. There was also a little rumor going around about a new Australian track, but I don't think anything has come of that because I think, as we said before, iRacing tend to, at least the week before the new build, start flashy videos about anything they're about to release. So I haven't heard anything else. Tony, anything on your grapevine that is coming up?
Well, a couple of things. There was a post today listing all the cars with version 7 tires. So the supercars both get the version 7 tires in the new build. And just 15 minutes before the broadcast, Dave Kamer made a posting on iRacing indicating that AI was launching on a soft launch. And for road courses, it would be available at Barber, Donington, Lime Rock, Mid Ohio, Nürburgring Grand Prix Streck, Road America, and Watkins Glen.
Are you interested in AI?
I am from a testing perspective, and I say that based on the lack of people being in practice servers during my time slot. That may change now with the new car and more people being in practice servers. But I am interested in seeing how it works. I don't know how useful it'll be, but I'm going to give it a go.
Fair enough.
I did quickly read that before we came on air. I know they're doing some oval tracks and cars, and they named the cars, but
Yeah.
did they put any names to cars for the road courses?
How do you mean? For the version 7 tires?
No, for the AI thing.
Yeah, the AI. Um, whatever cars race at those tracks. So Barber,
Right.
Donington, Lime Rock, so if you're racing a road car at those tracks, the AI will be
Is
working.
it only going to be? Is it only going to be for the cars that are on the new tire model? Hence why they've released a new tire model and all those
No
other
idea.
cars.
No idea.
I would have thought so.
The release notes will be out later this afternoon, they say.
Because otherwise, ultimately there's nothing stopping you from getting a dirt car and going to Donington. But you wouldn't have AI for that, would you? Even though it's an AI track.
Yeah. No, I
So
don't know.
I would have thought it would only be the cars that are on the new tire model or being released onto the new tire model, and that's why they're rolling out those cars on the new tire model. I would
That's
have thought.
possible. We'll see. Well, the notes will be out shortly.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I know we've had a discussion about AI before. I don't know if it was in this or something else. But I think possibly as a training tool, it's going to be okay.
Might be
My
interesting from the league. Sorry, Clyde.
no,
Might
no, you.
might be interesting from the league. I mean, if there was only 25 drivers, would you be able to add 15 AI into the race
Yeah,
to make it up to 40?
That would
That's an
be
interesting
interesting,
thought.
wouldn't it?
my problem with AI in any other game sim, whatever you want to call it, is a they tend to do the same things on the same tracks at the same corners, and once you race against AI for long enough, you can predict what they're going to do and stop them from doing it.
I think that's old AI. I think this moved on to like I don't play it at all really, but I was on a set of Corsa probably a year ago, and it was quite impressive. Obviously it will do the same thing if it was hot lapping, but as soon as you throw a move on it, it will go defensive early in front of you if it senses you're there. It would react to you, and if you did different things, it would react in a different way. So I would expect iRacing to do a good job of that.
Let me just read from Dave Kamer's notes. This is just the beginning of a number of exciting possibilities for racing. Currently, members are able to create rosters of highly adjustable, customizable drivers who can be set to different levels of skill, aggressiveness, age, so we can have old guys like me, reflexes, pitting ability, etc. You'll be able to replicate the driving attributes of your real life friends and rivals, not to mention rosters of great drivers of the past and present.
That's
Here's
Victor.
your here is your first opportunity to race against what will be the most intelligent AI you've ever faced. They will also be the toughest once you begin to exceed your overall skill setting. You can also adjust each individual AI driver skill setting and the overall skill spread of the AI field you're racing against. So that doesn't sound like your mother's AI.
No, I tell you, it has moved on. I mean, I'm not a big fan of AI. I think it's not the same, is it? But I think it has moved on from what Clyde is talking about and how I think of them as well to a certain extent. But it's and that was a long time ago. So I'm sure iRacing will do a great job. And I go back to my previous point. If we can add them onto the grid to make up numbers, that would be pretty cool. I'd not thought of that before.
Yeah, I'm just reading more here. I guess I should have read these notes before. It's only the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car on the 7 road courses.
Right. Okay. I'll forget that
So
idea for now.
much for that. Yeah.
So I shall be
I just
doing
wasted everybody's time.
I shall be doing AI races against Johnny and Tony clones, and I'm going to dumb them right down so I lap them on every race.
Yeah,
So
that's
that'll
not
be good.
hard.
Even though incidentally I did lap Tony at Silverstone. But we'll move on from that. We won't dwell on that point.
Did you lap
I think
me
I
or
lapped him 8 times.
Johnny, I know obviously you've just spoken about AI, but have XVR heard anything exciting through the grapevine?
No, not really. Just the most exciting thing I heard was the post Tony put up just before that the new cars, the V7 tire model on cars other than the V8s. So the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, which is a fun car, so that on the new tire model. I'm quite interested to have a look. The only thing I did notice in that list, Tony, was that they mentioned that the old Holden, the one we use at the moment, was on the new tire model, but they didn't mention the Ford Falcon.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I was curious about that.
And the thing that stuck out to me as well, that they're putting the new tyre model on some of the archive cars.
Yeah, the MX5. Yeah, TD Cup, VW. Yeah.
And something that myself and Sam spoke about before we came on air. Obviously Sam's into his endurance GT LMP stuff. And obviously there's not much talk of the new tyre model for those cars yet. I wondered aloud, is it because the tyres need to be tweaked for each individual car? It's not just something that you can just throw on any car and it works. Do you know anything about it, Tony?
Yeah, each tire is modeled for each individual car. So, if it's a supercar, which is a big heavy tire car, you're going to have a different tire construction than say a Mazda.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And as I said to Sam, I would assume that if that's the case where they have to tweak it for each individual car because of the GTs and the LMPs and them sort of things all tend to be on the same track. They need to get it right for all of those cars before they release.
I think also that it looks like they've done one make cars in this list, whereas if they did the GT3s or the GTs, they've got to do them all at the same time. Otherwise, it would just cause carnage.
Yeah.
Because obviously you get 4 different cars racing in IMSA. There's 4 GT3s, there's 6 GT3s, 4 or 5 GTEs, however many there are. They need to release all of those at the same time. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah, agreed there.
Okay, guys. So move on to league news. So first on my list is our Christmas Race of Champions, which is coming up a week on Saturday. Now the details will be posted this week. Last time we did it, really good fun. I was very, very drunk. And I think we had Mr. Jamie McKnight with us, sounding like a dodgy train announcer. You guys did it before. It was a good giggle, wasn't it? Bit of bit of a laugh. Everybody in the same Discord channel on the broadcast. Obviously X-rated, not for children, because there was a lot of swear words in it.
That was Chaz, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Are you guys looking to race in it this year?
Absolutely.
I'm going for 2-time champion.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced you was the champion last time. I was too drunk.
I
to
don't think
bring that
anyone
up.
else is. You were so drunk, yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not going to say too much more on that. Like I say, the details will be released very, very shortly, and it
Come
is
on.
definitely different from last year.
Spill the
So,
beans. Give us a little
no,
clue.
can't.
A little clue.
No.
I bet Tony knows.
All the admins know. Actually, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I told the admins, and that's purely if I can find the sheet that I'm looking for. So
I'll tell
what
you.
we
I'll
gonna?
tell them.
Have you got it in front of you, Tony?
No, I remember. My memory's actually pretty
Hold on a
good for
minute.
an
So
old
is
guy.
Tony practicing it? Tony knows. That's not
No,
good.
you will.
Hold on. We've uncovered a conspiracy here.
No, you
No,
will find out very shortly that nobody is going to be able to practice this. So basically, what we are doing is there's going to be 5 races on the night, in no particular order. We're going to drive the correct cars on the correct tracks this time. So all the cars are going to be free. All the tracks are going to be free. We are going to be driving the VW Beetle on a rallycross track. We're going to drive the dirt street stock at a dirt oval.
So it's not V8s.
This is a race of champions. We are going to race one of the old Xfinity cars at an oval, and we're going to do the spec race of Ford on a road course. Now, the twist this year is nobody knows what tracks we're going to race on. You know the cars, but you don't know the tracks. All I can tell you is the tracks are free, so nobody's going to have to buy a track. And I've got a random track generator that on the night I can hit the button and it will come up with a track. Sam has also done a little spinny wheel thing, so if we can get that working correctly, we'll do the track for the next car live on the broadcast. And then to
Are all the cars
finish,
free?
sorry,
The cars were all free as well, are they?
the cars are all free. Yeah. Nobody's going to have to buy anything for this. The 5th and final race of the evening, we're going to have a last hurrah for the current V8s, the Holden and the Ford. And it's going to be a demolition derby at Oxford Plains, which, if anybody has ever looked at Oxford Plains, it's a roundabout. So there is a V8 element to it. But this year's champion for the Race of Champions is going to have to be really good in all 4 disciplines of iRacing racing. And that's as much as I'm going to say.
all fixed setups, quite.
Everything will be fixed setups, like we did last year. So there'll be no messing around. I'll get the post out probably tomorrow. So any of the painters out there that want to paint up their Christmas sleigh cars and things like that can.
What, are you going to name the cars tomorrow in this post?
I've just named them.
Oh,
Did you
okay.
not listen?
I thought you were just using them as examples. And it
No.
No.
We
right,
will
okay.
be racing the VW Beetle, the Dirt Street Stock, one of the old Xfinity Xfinity cars. So you've got the choice of Mustang, Camaro, or Camry, and the Spec Racer Ford. They will be the cars that we're using. It's just the tracks that are going to be random.
I think I did about 2 laps in that Spec Racer Ford in a test mode when iRacing was down once, and it was horrible. I couldn't
It's hilarious.
It's not looking good.
So get your drinking heads on, get your Christmas jumpers on. It's going to be a giggle.
Hey, Johnny, in the endurance race, you actually be able to put the bumper to somebody and admit
Admit it. It's netcode. What are you talking about?
it.
Okay, so moving on from that, not going to say too much about season 8, apart from there is going to be a season 8. Looks like we will be on Apex Racing TV again. And we've got a schedule that will be released very shortly as soon as I've done the graphics for it. We've got the new website coming to coincide with the new season. So between me, Sam, Dave, we'll rope Tony into it as well at some point. Some of the other admins, we've got plenty of work to do before the new season. But just so that everybody knows, most of the planning is already done. It's just waiting for a little bit of testing and for me to release the details.
Can we not have Tony picking the tracks this season?
Tone,
That's
I have
fine.
picked the tracks this season, believe it or not. So
I am joking. Sorry, Tony, can resist.
Oh, it's fine. If you see the list of tracks this season, they're all ones I'm not happy about. So,
and lastly, little bit of announcement. I haven't got all the full details yet, but we had the secondary series this season with the sprint series. It was thoroughly enjoyable. We enjoyed broadcasting it. Myself, Pete, Bill, and Sam. And 33 rounds, and Johnny wins it by 1 point. So that was good, but we just didn't have the driver participation that we thought we was going to get. So change of tact for next season. We're going to drop the sprint series, and we're going to do a monthly endurance series using the V8s. So
Nice.
haven't quite got all the details yet. Was toying with the idea of making it a team thing, but then because of participation with secondary series, if you do it a team thing, you're cutting the cars down in half. So it's probably going to be every race is going to be 2 or maybe 3 hours, single driver. And like I say, it will be once a month, so we will get a break. And
2 or
hope,
3 hours, and then one maybe team event in the middle of it or something.
yeah, possibly. There's there's a
6-2.
load of opportunities there. And the other thing I'm looking at is, whereas our regular season sort of runs for 6 months, this one's probably going to run for 11, so it'll spread itself over 2 of our regular main series.
You know the worst thing
seasons.
about that, don't you?
Go on.
I will now be the all-time reigning sprint series champion, unbeatable.
To be honest, mate,
Shocking.
we'll probably just wipe it off the records and nobody will know.
Oh no, Clyde.
there'll be an asterisk somewhere, Johnny.
It'll be on my Facebook homepage. Don't worry.
But yeah, so just for everybody at home, they're the things that are coming up and brewing in the background. So what we are going to do with the endurance series is that's going to be live on ECA Racing TV, with me and Bill and Pete, your favourite commentators, taking the piss out of everybody dying after 2 laps in a 200 lap race. So we'll get some more details on paper and get something more concrete down, and get some tracks picked and some dates and things like that, and then let everybody know. So we're into that section now where we take the questions. Luckily, Pete looks like he's playing Elite Dangerous tonight, so we haven't got 73 questions to get through. First one I've got on there is from Andrew Hoffman, who sent me this earlier on today because I don't know what he's doing. He's obviously working. Can't be with us tonight. and I'm going to start with Johnny, so he's got no time to think. And he's put this to all four of us, so we might have to let Sam talk. If the four of you had to choose one of the slow guys to do a Bathurst 1000 with, who would you choose? So, Johnny.
Lane O'Connor. Or does it have to, is he not slow enough?
No. I think Lane's made a hell of a big improvement, but yeah, he's still not
only messing.
up
He's
there
not
with
slow
you
at all.
guys. So
Hopefully he's watching the chat. He's watching the broadcast, and we'll
I'm
have a
sure
go.
he is, and I'm sure there'll be a comment on there very shortly. But
honest answer. I mean, I don't want to insult anybody by saying slow. I don't know.
Us slow guys know we're slow, Johnny. So
Somebody from the club championship. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, yes and no, because I wouldn't class Gary Croft as slow, and I wouldn't class Nikolai as slow. But somebody that's in the bottom half of the grid in most races.
I was going to pick Nikolai. Not that he's slow, because he's not that slow. But he probably makes a few mistakes. But I'd quite like to. I'd quite like to do a race with Nikolai. I think he could be pretty quickly, with a few little instructions. So yeah, that would be my one. Book a tire with.
Okay, and Tony, what about you?
Pete Bingham.
Oh, mate, big mistake straight away.
It'll be a short race, I'm sure.
I won't go into our Bathurst 1000 experience this year when Pete managed to kill us twice. But yeah, good luck with that one, Tony. That would be one of those days that you'd really enjoy your internet dropping out.
Right.
And Sam, come on, let's let you talk. Everybody get Google Translate ready.
I'm a slow driver, so may I pick a fast one instead?
Yeah, good idea. You pick a fast one and I'll pick a fast one as well.
I will pick Johnny, because I'm sure he have a lot to teach me, as well as Tony, but maybe Tony is a bit too old for me.
I'd be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would go with Mike Taliancic
Fuel saving.
because he would show me how to save fuel, and then I would never have to do a pit stop again, which is something that I cock up quite regularly.
You've shown everybody how to save fuel. It's just nobody can actually do it.
I know there's got to be more to it than that video. There's got to be. And if I was going to pick another slow driver to drive with me, so I've been there with Pete, so I would gladly let Tony race with Pete. I would go for my old buddy Bill Switzer, because I've got high hopes for Bill next season. I think he's gonna be one of the guys at the end of next season that we talk about. I'm not saying he's going to be up there in the top 10, but he's going to be one of those guys that we talk about having great improvements next season. So there you go, Andrew. All of us have managed not to say you, so I hope you're happy with your answers. And we've only got one other question, and that is from Nikolai. And that is, how much do I owe you, Johnny? No, only joking. How do I file a protest against an AI driver?
Contact them.
I think the best way to do it, from what Tony was reading out, where you can basically make your own AI drivers, is just to call them all Tony Kloosterman and just protest him every corner.
And the
every
answer
race.
will be netcode.
Without a doubt. So, guys, we didn't have many questions tonight. We've done absolutely fantastic on time. At some point, we will get it down to an hour. So, before we let everybody go, Anything else from you, Johnny?
No, not really. Just thank you for everything you do to keep this league going. You know, it's appreciated. More than you know, it's the best league I've been involved in. Not because I won it, but because it's genuinely enjoyable. And we have our moments, me and Tony, but I think we love each other really. And it's a great league. So thank you for sticking with it and keeping it all going and everything else that goes along with it, Clyde. That's all I'd like to say, really.
Thank you. And Tony, any last thoughts from you?
No, it was a good year, and hopefully everyone comes back and we pick up a few more for the new season. And if we don't see some of the racers at the Christmas event, I wish everybody a happy holiday and a good Christmas and New Year's, and we'll see you in the new year.
And Sam, as we've given you a speaking part tonight, any last words from yourself?
Thanks to you, Clyde, Johnny, and Tony for the podcast. It was very fun to listen to you, even if if I was not able to talk because you don't want to. Thanks to all the drivers who made up to the sprint series. It was also very fun to broadcast, and everyone part of the league. It's the best races I have ever had, and I hope it will still like that in a few years.
And thanks to you, Sam, for broadcasting those races and for volunteering to do the endurance series for next year. It's much appreciated by everyone.
Yeah, ditto. Cheers, Sam.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, guys.
And obviously, if anybody has any idea what Sam just said, please put your answers on a postcard. From me, it's going to sound a little bit speechy. With the podcast, obviously, I want to thank Sam for, Sam basically sets up everything in the background, and me, Johnny, and Tony just come on here and talk rubbish. Thanks to Johnny and Tony for doing it. When we first come up with the idea, it was, will it work? Won't it work? I think we have some good fun doing it. I think it's going to get better as well. And with Tony and Johnny, they're both good guys. They're both quick guys. They're always willing to help out, and they do have their arguments amongst each other. But no matter what happens on the track, they're always here on a Monday to do this podcast with me. So, really appreciate that. Congratulations to all our winners from this season, and the runners up and the third place. Thanks to the admin team. I know Johnny's just thanked me, but it's not a solo effort. I will admit I do a lot of it, but there's plenty of other people in the background, either picking up bills for websites or Dave doing the websites, Tony does our testing and the broadcasting, JP helps out with the race stewarding. There's so many people that do so many things in the background, and the league would certainly suffer without them. So, thanks to the admin team. I'm just the icing on the cake. We have to have somebody good looking for the media, so that's where I come in. Thanks to all the drivers, each and every one of you that has taken part in either series, both series this season. The league wouldn't be anything if we didn't have any drivers. So it would just be me preaching to me about how things are going to happen. But you guys turn in week in, week out. Rubbish tracks, good tracks. Feeling well, feeling ill. You're still there. So thanks for that. Obviously, a big thanks to Racetech for the sponsorship. Long may it continue. Already in discussions with David, the owner at Racetech, about if there's anything else we can do for them. In the future. So there might be a few exciting things pop up next season from Racetech. And yeah, that's about it. Like I said, I knew it was going to be a bit speechy and got a bit of a tear in my eye. We will be back. Where date to be confirmed. We're going to do a bit of a season preview before everything kicks off with the four of us. And we'll see whether we can predict who's going to win this championship next season. We'll have a better idea on what drivers we've got, and if there's any more aliens coming in, or people would have had time to test the new car. I'm hoping some of the fast guys are going to struggle, and some of us slow guys are going to take to it like a duck to water. You never know, your luck. So yeah,
Might happen, I'm telling you. Not that far-fetched.
that. Yeah, I know you've spoke about it already, Johnny, with the TCR car. Some of the guys that are rapid in other things are struggling a bit getting their heads around the new tyre model. And some of the guys that are mid-packers are getting up there in the top 10. So, we've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. And like I say, if you're not doing anything a week on Saturday, and if I knew what the date was, I'd tell you the date. Christmas Race of Champions. It is absolutely hilarious.
Is it next week?
No, week on Saturday. So
okay.
Saturday
13th, I think,
is
or 14th.
14th.
Yes, 14th. So 14th of December. Post will go up this week, giving you times and things like that. It's a bit of a wing it night, make it up as you go along, but at the end of it, I'll manage to name a champion that didn't win it because somebody else got more points, but I give up counting by then. So again, thanks to Johnny, thanks to Tony, thanks to Sam for tonight and all the other podcasts. Thanks to those that contribute, all our special guests this year. All of the people that watch either live or afterwards. And I'm running out of things to say. So I think that's about it, guys. Shall we call it quits?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a good year.
Who won the championship, Tony?
Jesus.
Oh, you never
Good
did
night.
get around to talking about the Jesus
yes.
thing.
One
Yes.
last thing before
I
we...
should've kept
Yeah.
my mouth shut.
We found out tonight that Johnny Brandon's birthday is Christmas Day. So I think anybody that calls him Johnny Brandon and not Jesus Brandon from this point onwards needs to be deducted points from next season. So
Well,
please feel free to call him Jesus whenever you feel like it. He won't
know-
get offended, honestly.
I know Johnny thinks he's the second coming of Christ, and that might confirm it.
There's been nothing about second coming with me for a long time, Tony.
Right, guys, let's call it quits. And I'd say echo what these guys said. For those of you that don't turn up to the Race of Champions, hope you have a fantastic Christmas, brilliant New Year. Hope you get on with the new cars, not too well, because I want to win the championship next season. And yeah, good night from us. See you later.
Later.
Good night.